From the snow-capped mountains of the west to the cypress swamps of the south and everywhere in between. This is the Southern Flight Podcast. I'm your host, Robbie Nelson. You are listening to the Southern Flight Podcast. I got Barrett Donnelly back in the house today, sitting in the co-pilot seat over here. He's going to be helping us out. And today's guest is the one and only Mr. Jeff Stanfield from the Big Honker Podcast and also Stanfield Hunting Outfitters out in the big town of Knox City, Texas. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing wonderful, Robbie. Appreciate you and Barrett having me on.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming on. I know when you sent me a message there, I don't know, a month or so back, you kind of given me some encouraging words on the podcast and keeping it going and doing all that. I really appreciate that, because a guy that is somebody that's at the top of the game in the podcast world, like you and Andy are with the Big Honker, to give that encouragement to other guys that are getting started and going means a lot, because you definitely don't have to do that and you're not gaining anything by it. So just kind of shows the person you are, and I appreciate that.
Very welcome. You know, the podcast world has changed. I remember when we were the new guys on the block, we got kind of looked down on by a couple of waterfowl guys that were doing it already. And I didn't understand that. I thought, you don't have to listen to just one podcast.
Right.
And I had no idea that our podcast would take off like it did, and never ever in my life thought it would turn into be as huge as it's been. But you're still the same person you were before. And I don't understand. If a guy drives in his car every day and is in a vehicle for 2 hours a day, which a lot of guys are in a big city, they've got plenty of time to listen to a lot of different podcasts. So there's no sense to be against someone.
That's right. That's right. And everybody's kind of got their own little niche. And I mean, you've got some guys that are real serious about certain topics. And I don't know, you listen, I've got 3 or 4 that I listen to on a regular basis that are waterfowl related. And I have some that I listen to that have absolutely nothing to do with waterfowl. And everybody, like I said, everybody's got their own niche. And, Barrett builds houses for a living. And he told me one of the things he said is, I hate every other home builder. I'm the guy, I want everybody to, to buy my home. And that's just the competitive nature of it. And the beauty of a podcast is, though, like you said, they can listen to the Big Honker, turn it off, or get through the episode of the day. And then tomorrow be like, well, damn, I wonder what the Southern Flight put out this week. So then listen to mine and then go listen to somebody else's. So it's just like a song. You don't have to pick one song you like to listen to or one artist. You can keep listening to everybody. So I think it's great. And there's 99% of people that have podcasts will never make it to the number of podcasts that these guys have put out. I mean, y'all are over 1,000. I think the statistic that I read was, and somebody's probably going to fact check me on this, but I think that it was like something like 90% of podcasts quit or never make it to episode 20, I'm wanting to say. I think it was something along those lines. So most guys just give up or quit doing it. I think a lot of times people don't realize how much work it is. I mean, there's a lot of work.
I don't do none of the work part of it. Andy does. I'm pretty blessed there. I do schedule a lot of our people.
Right.
And we have a calendar system that we have on our phone, and we write down when we do something. And I'm usually good about doing it 4 or 5 days out. Andy likes to surprise me. Like, I made plans with my wife. Tomorrow, me and Michelle were supposed to go to Abilene to do some things together. And I said something to Andy. I said, now Friday we'll do our 4th of July, because we always do a podcast on 4th of July. We're going to do it on Friday. And he goes, remember, we got one tomorrow. I go, huh? He goes, it's on the calendar. I go, when'd you put it on the calendar? It's on the calendar. So I'm assuming he had just put it on the calendar this morning.
Yeah.
But it wasn't there last night. But I don't have to do any of the work, but it is a lot of work. And that's one thing people don't. And 2 things I've noticed about having a podcast, because I had a lady in town tell me one time, and she's not a very interesting lady in this little town we live in. And she told me, she goes, and this was like 5 years ago when we had just started breaking through and really got to have a pretty good traction. She said, I'm going to get me a podcast like you and Andy. I said, okay. I go, what are you going to do it on? She goes, oh, just talk about things. I thought, yeah, you're going to see how far that's going to go.
Yeah.
Because you got to have a genre. You have to get some traction, have people follow you, but you also got to have something interesting to talk about.
Right.
You know, if you,
And also you have to have an interesting personality enough so people will keep listening.
sure.
You can talk about have great topics all day long, but if you're not captivating or funny, or either you got to have something about you that makes people keep listening, because there's so many things that are pulling at people's attention every day that everybody's attention span is so short now. And so for somebody to put out an hour plus podcast and have somebody sit in a truck and listen to the whole thing, that's an accomplishment and a feat within itself.
Yes. Did you know that I've been doing some research on some stuff yesterday because I'm big anti WNBA bullshit. And
Okay.
they pissed me off on this, the way they, all them dark black chicks, the way they hate on Caitlin Clark really pisses me off. But so anyways, I was looking last night. You know, the average WNBA, they've got that, $100 million contract with ESPN. They pull in about 500,000 people a game watch those games, is it?
That's
That's
it.
all.
That's more than
And
CNN, though.
not it does beat CNN. Our local CBS station, me and their general manager got into a pissing match one time on Facebook, and I called his office. I was going to go talk to him. He pissed me off. And another buddy of mine is at another TV station as the general manager, and I called him. He goes, "Don't. It's not worth getting in trouble for." Blah 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 blah. Anyways, they have only about 20,000 people a day watch that, and this is a big city. We have more listeners a day than they do, and that put it into perspective to me. But back in the 70s and 80s, if you had a show on TV and you were just a series on TV and it wasn't very good and it only lasted 1 year, you still would have 5 to 10 million people watching you. So
Right.
you're right. People have so many different platforms now to put their attention to. You got to be interesting. You have to be interesting to keep it up. And I think right now there's 12 million podcasts in the world.
It's crazy. Yeah, there's a lot of them. And I think some people also start them and they think that, well, I'm going to make money with this. And they don't realize that, I mean, this podcast, and I don't care about money. I mean, I own 2 businesses. I do this for fun. And now, don't get me wrong. If it makes some money one day, hey, that's great. I'm not going to turn it down, but that's not why I started it. I started it because I thought it would be fun and interesting to talk to different people. I can talk the paint off the wall. So this is right along with what, my
Open
personal
doors was a huge thing.
yeah, yeah, but the biggest thing to me is, like Barrett just said, opening doors. Like the people you may get to meet, connections you may make. That's kind of stuff that money can't buy, and to me, that's more important than anything else. But I think people get into it for the wrong reasons, or just I think the biggest thing is they underestimate the amount of
For
time. Yeah, I mean, because it takes a lot of time, because I do all the editing. I mean, this Riverside software makes it easier for sure, but you still got to sit there and like, oh, well, I remember there was this dead space of air that went on for 30 seconds when somebody was looking up something. So now you got to go through there and try to find it and get it out and all that good stuff. So it takes a lot of time, and there are a lot of different avenues pulling at people for their attention. So, Jeff, I've got a couple rapid fire questions I'm gonna shoot at you, like you like to do people on the Big Honker. So first one: most important employee at the Stanfield Hunting Outfitters. It can't be yourself, other than yourself. Who is the most important?
I would make a top 5. There's 2 people in mind, and
All right, well, we'll go with the 2.
I sleep with one of them, and the other one, my mom slept with my dad to get the other one, so is my brother.
I gotcha.
So Michelle is probably the most important person here during hunting season because of the meals.
And
3 of them a day is a lot.
Well, she only does 2. Tony does breakfast in the morning, so Tony gets that. But Michelle does lunch, and she has a homemade soup every day. She does homemade chocolate chip cookies that are famous, and and we don't have a fancy lunch. We do soup, sandwiches, and homemade chocolate chip cookies. And then at nighttime, Michelle does a big meal. And some nights we do Mexican food. And when we do, the Mexican girls that work for us, so we have authentic Mexican food because they're made by real Mexicans. But we do home meals all the time, and Michelle has a homemade dessert. And I'm gonna say Michelle's the MVP for during hunting season
there you
because
go.
of the meals. And that's the difference, because you can have a guy have a bad hunt, and I'll know when someone's. I had a bad review this year, and the guy bitched about the food, and so one of my buddies said that son bitch is just looking for an excuse because the hunting was bad. I said it was just tough hunting for 3 days. It was full moon, 80 degrees, and it's just hunting.
Yeah, that's right.
But but his bad review, he bitched about the food. And so I knew it wasn't about, there's no way he was up here and ate 3 days and said the food wasn't any good.
Well,
You've eaten up here.
I'm about to say, I'll say this for those of y'all that are listening to this. I went out, me and a couple other guys that like to listen to the Big Honker. That's how we learned about Stanfield Hunting Outfitters, which is going to lead to another question here in a minute. But anyway, we went out there and deer hunted with them this year. I'd never been out of state on a deer hunt in my life. I waterfowl hunt all over the place, always travel for that. But Jeff had a deal going on a deer hunt, and so 3 of us, we all went out there. And the food was awesome. So I know whoever said that was full of shit, because the food, the food was probably the best thing there, if I'm being honest. The food was
everybody.
Yeah,
everybody says good. That.
Yeah,
I don't care if we have a hunt and we're done in 15 minutes. People still rave about the food. Michelle's cooking, so the food. Tony's the MVP other than that, because he keeps everything going. I mean, if we got a toilet that's clogged at midnight, Tony fixes it. A couple of years ago, we had a lateral line go out, and Tony had to completely put a new lateral line in December. And so Tony keeps all the deer feeders running. He keeps all the deer stuff going. He does breakfast in the mornings, any kind of maintenance and stuff we have around here. And I'm jealous of that guy that does guided hunts that just meets somebody at a gas station and goes on a hunt, because the hunting is the easiest part of our day is the hunting. It's everything else. I mean, we got 40 guys staying here. We feed 40 people. We got food trucks. We got girls that work for us. We've got guys that work for us. We clean birds. You got to keep the grounds clean. I mean, it's firewood. It's a whole lot of stuff. And Tony takes care of a big majority. Tony takes care of 99.9% of shit outside of here.
Right.
So I'm going to say my wife is the most important person when it comes to the lodging aspect and the customer service. And I'm going to say on running things, it's Tony. And then I would say it's the guides, and then the cleaning ladies, and then the kitchen ladies, and then Jeff would be about 12.
I got you. Well, I spent a lot of time with Tony when I was out there, because Tony does the deer hunts, for those of y'all that don't know. And so Tony and Nolan were the two that I dealt with mostly while I was there. But really, Tony, I spent a lot of time with him riding around in the truck. And then after I shot my deer, and the last guy still needed a deer, I was just riding with Tony. And
taking it all in.
Yeah, just taking it all in, riding with him, shooting the shit, talking about, all the years these guys been guiding on. He was a real easy to get along with, real easy fellow to talk to. The only problem I had with Tony was ask Tony if he's cut that damn conservation bush down yet. I was sitting in a blind that y'all have, and I wound up killing a deer that morning, but I was sitting in this blind that y'all have, and to my left, here come these 3 does. Well, I see this big old tall, wide rack buck come behind just a typical Texas deer, what I would think of a Texas deer, and it comes plopping down through there, and this thing's only like 30 yards from the stand, but there's this big-ass bush. It's like right out the window between me and it, and I almost pulled the old damn redneck shoot through the bush and see what happens kind of thing. But since I was on a hunt with these guys, I'm like, man, if I shoot through this damn bush and wound this thing and we don't find it, I'm gonna get an ass chewing. So I was like, well, hopefully this thing can mosey on out, because there was a feeder out in front of us. Well, about this time, some damn hogs came up to the feeder. Well, everybody knows deer don't like hogs. So then 3 does got out to the open and saw the hogs. They turned left and hauled ass that way. The buck went right after him behind him. So later on in the morning, I ended up shooting a deer. Wasn't quite as big as that one. I actually thought it was that deer when I shot it. But Tony came down there and he said, oh, that's a pretty damn nice deer. And I said, yeah, but damn, Tony, I had this big old ass buck come through here. And I said, that summit was 30 yards right there and I couldn't kill him. And he said, well, why not? And I walked him over there and showed him the bush. He goes, well, hell, that's my conservation bush. I can't have you killing all my damn deer. I said, I said, you son of a bitch. He said, that's my conservation bush. I knew that one was going to walk by over there, see, and I didn't need you killing all of them, because we still got a bunch of deer hunters to come through. It was all in good fun. It was, just cutting up with them.
He is running errands today. He's going to be back pretty soon. When he gets to the office, I'll ask him about that.
Yeah, ask him about that damn conservation bush over there on that place. But anyway, that was my Tony story of the week while I was there. Next rapid fire question: best guide you ever had that worked for you that was not family? Can't be Andy.
Dave Reese.
Dave Reese. Oh, he answered that quick.
I said that pretty quick. Yeah, Dave's the best goose hunting guide in America, in the history of America, I think. Dave worked for me for 6-7 years. He's from Minnesota. Great guy. He works for he went to work he worked for me for a long time. He went to work for another outfitter out here for 3 or 4 years. And then he went to Minnesota and he works for a very wealthy man and he manages a hunt club up there. But Dave's the best goose hunter I ever had work for me. And I've had a lot of really good goose hunters. But Dave is probably the best goose hunter I've ever had. And if I had a top 10 list, my 15th guy would probably be as good as my second guy.
Right.
I've had world champion callers work for me. I've had who's of guides. I've had guys nobody knew the hell it was that came here and worked for us. It was excellent. So that was it. Dave's the best goose hunter I've ever been around.
Gotcha. And then my last rapid fire question, and this is the most important one. You got to feed one, you got to pick one to run your business, and you got to see one naked. Poppy, Snacks, and Stoner. Who's going where?
Hit it.
God, man. I got to see one naked.
Yeah, that's one of them. You got to see one of them naked.
I'm going to have Snacks run the business.
Okay, Snacks is running your business. Now you got to feed one. Who we feeding?
Well, I'm going to see Josh naked because Josh is at least the thinnest of the three of them. So I'm going to take Stoner naked. And then I guess, what am I got to feed Poppy?
Yeah, you just got to feed one every day, and you got to pick one to run your business and see one naked.
I've fed Blake all the time forever. So Blake's just, Blake's the only problem is he always wants to order a pitcher of beer when I'm ready to walk out the door.
Does he? He's always.
It's horrible. Will he do that in Oklahoma to me? I said, okay, guys, let's go. Oh, I just going to order another pitcher of beer. I'm like, son of a bitch. So, yeah, Blake, I'm feeding Blake. I'm going to let Snacks run things. Snacks is pretty responsible. Blake is too. So is Stoner. They're all good, responsible guys. But I'm going to let Snacks run things. I'm going to feed Blake, and I'm going to see Josh naked, I guess.
There we go. Yeah, but if you had to pick one, so, I mean, it was just kind of a rapid fire there. So
but if it makes Snacks and Blake happy, I don't really give two shits about seeing Stoner naked or any other guy that's worked for me.
I know that, Jeff. I just thought it'd be fun, something to light the mood.
I've never had a pretty one.
Yeah, well, I hope that would be your right answer anyway. Tell me this: since y'all been doing this podcast, I think since back in 2018.
Yeah, this is going on our 8th year. We'll be
That's
9
right.
years in April.
I think I started listening to y'all sometime in 20 or 21. It was a little after.
Yeah, COVID was when Doofle turned me on to it.
Right. So Doofle was actually the first one to find it. Our buddy Matt, and Matt actually was one of the ones that came out. He shot the biggest deer out of my group of 3 that came this year, and he actually came out. And he's a podcast, freak. He listens to them all day long. And I think he was the one that turned me on to it as well, but back then. So it was probably about 2020. But in that time, since I'm pretty sure Andy had the idea to start that. But
yes.
So I thought that was right. So in that time, how has that transformed or helped your actual hunting business? Like basically take all the sponsorships of the podcast aside and just podcast aside. How has that podcast helped your Stanfield Hunting Outfitters? It's had to influence it some.
Yeah, I used to tell Dad all the time. Dad died in 2020. Dad died in 2020, so it was about the second year of the podcast, and we was really starting to grow then. And I used to tell Dad, I said, you want to see the power of the podcast? I go, I can get on the podcast and say, hey, I've got an opening in 2 weeks on a Tuesday, and I need 6 guys, and I'll cut you really $200 a day to hunt. I mean, we're already paying for my guides to be here. We season lease everything, so it's money. It pays for the guides to be here. Maybe pays 2 salaries or something, and I could do that, and I could sell those hunts out real fast. And so it changed our life when in the waterfowl world because we've been doing it for a long time, anyways.
Right.
But we were where we were going to be. We weren't going to go up or nothing. Now, when we go to hunt and show, everybody knows who we are. Everybody.
Right.
And so it changed in that regard is that it gave us more notoriety and for no reason other than we just have a podcast. And I think a lot of other outfitters have tried to get up. They have, I know a bunch of different outfitters have gotten podcasts, but like you said, they don't stick to it. It's made our life a whole lot better. And, we're sponsored by everything.
I know.
I don't like to pay for nothing anymore. I've gotten spoiled, so I'm used to people sending me free shit all the time. So if I have to pay for something, I'm like, God, that sucks having to pay for shit again.
Yeah, I know the first, what is it, like 10 minutes and 20 seconds of y'all's podcast is nothing but sponsorships. And good for you guys. Good on you for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's turned into the podcast is definitely a moneymaker now for us. But when we first started, it wasn't.
Yeah, for
Matter
sure.
one of my first sponsors, I gave them free sponsorship just so I could have a sponsor on here.
How
I was
about
like,
that?
listen, I need a sponsor because it makes if I approach someone else, I can't say, well, who else sponsors it? Nobody. So I gave two sponsorships away to a guy, two businesses that hunted with me. One of them was a vineyard. And then they ended up, they'd send me a case of wine every month or something. I'm not a wine drinker. Michelle really liked it. But then, and then we picked up more and more sponsors. But, I get a lot of guys that have podcasts that'll call me about sponsorship, about one guy calls me up. He's going to start a podcast, and he goes, "Now, sir, do I get my sponsors first?" I said, "Well, if you think you can get them, but you're going to awful hard pressed to find sponsors when you ain't
got
had
a
a
little
podcast."
work to do to get there.
Yeah. Good luck. Good luck on that one. Yeah. And again, I think that goes back to what I said earlier. I think sometimes people start these podcasts for the wrong reason, and maybe that's not the wrong reason, but to me, it's just like you want to something like this is you start because you enjoy doing it, or you've got like maybe a long-term goal with it. But if you think you're just going to hit the ground and start making money, you're not going to. It's literally going to do nothing but cost you money for a while.
We never did the podcast. When we started the podcast, it was never about making a dime.
Right.
It was Andy's idea. I didn't even know what a podcast was, and we started doing it. I used to do some Facebook Live stuff like I still do now, and I have pretty big following on my Facebook because I'm so politically incorrect about shit, and so and I used to write an article in about 7 newspapers out here called Just Jeff, and same thing I'd ran about on my Facebook. I would write in these little small towns, and no one else would say the things that I said. Man, I sold a lot of newspapers in these little towns. So Andy's like, man, you need a podcast. Well, that's why I said we need to do one together, and we did. But it was Andy's idea. But when we started it was nothing more to help promote our business. That's in my
100%.
mind. In my mind, that's all it was. This is free advertising for us.
Right.
Never thought we would, get in the millions and millions of downloads a year that we did. I was just happy to be in the waterfowl world. And when we first did our first podcast, I think there was 23 or 28 people listened the first day, and 22 of them probably were kin to us. But we busted our ass on sharing our podcast in hunting, like every Facebook, like state forum that they would have. Pennsylvania hunting forum. I would join that shit, and I would share the podcast if they would let me. Some of them they won't let you do nothing like that, but I would share a podcast. And if we had something regional to that area, I would share it. And that helped grow it a lot. And that's what I tell people all the time that start their podcast. You got to find you some different platforms to share it and hope people will start listening to it.
Right, because the people that listen to your podcast, or I'm not saying you, I just mean like most of your people that's going to listen to your podcast when you're starting out is your friends and family, people that immediate close to you. So you share it, and you've got a certain amount of people that are gonna watch it or listen to it, and you got a certain amount of people that couldn't give a shit less. So you need to figure out how to tap people that are outside of that is what you got to start doing. And that's where that networking, and like you're doing, just putting in that legwork and getting that in. Another good thing that y'all had going for y'all was, and kudos to Andy for thinking, because Andy and I are the same age. I'm 38 too, and I've heard him mention that on the podcast. So Andy and I are the same age. And so he was kind of ahead of the curve, really, when he was telling you need to do that. Because back in 2017, 18, when y'all were thinking about it and actually getting started with it, there wasn't really that many hunting podcasts out at that point. There really wasn't any many podcasts in general out. So y'all kind of also got in on the ground floor, and we're a little bit ahead of that curve there. And with y'all, being an outfitter as well, it just kind of went right hand in hand with y'all and other people that y'all know and customers that come through. Hey, we have this podcast, so you're constantly getting a new grift of people coming through. But then now y'all are so known. I mean, everybody knows who y'all are now. Even a lot of people that don't duck hunt or waterfowl hunt listen to y'all. But I know it took you a long time to get to that point. So that's right.
It did. And when we first started, we didn't have everybody that listened to our stuff was a waterfowl outside of our family.
Right.
So it was all waterfowl people. Well, now if I go to Abilene or go to Wichita, or we go to my granddaughter's softball games or my grandson's stuff, whatever we're at, people come up to me all the time. And a lot of them are not waterfowl hunters because we don't do just waterfowl. And that was the biggest thing that we did to help our podcast grow, is to get out of just doing waterfowl stuff. Because waterfowl hunters, all hunters in general, but waterfowl hunters are a different breed of cat. They're very loyal to waterfowl. That's their, I mean, they're waterfowl hunters. And you can, like deer hunters, you can go into a place and you can see somebody with a deer mount something, and you think, oh, they probably deer hunt. But if you go in, someone's got artwork with ducks in there, you're like, that guy's a duck hunter.
Right.
And it's a special fraternity. Well, those people also have other interests other than duck hunting. Because when you're sitting in a duck blind, you're usually not talking about duck hunting.
That's right. That's right.
And so
No.
we kind of took it to that next step to talk about stuff that's not just duck hunting. But boy, the Blue Blood Waterfowl podcast guys did not like that shit at all when we first come on the scene.
Really?
You know? No, I mean, I'll never forget one of the big boys that there was two of them that were really big when we first got into it. One of them messaged me and told me, they said, well, you guys, y'all got a pretty good message. Y'all might make it at this, but I doubt y'all will make it 3 months. Most people don't. Well, he was being honest because most people don't make it but about 3 months.
That's right.
But we got away from just doing waterfowl. Then when they would have these forums and stuff, that'd be name your top waterfowl podcast. Anytime anybody would put us on there, they're like, well, do they really count as a waterfowl podcast? I don't know if we do or not. I don't care. But we're going to talk waterfowl, and we got this public hunter series we do, and it's all waterfowl, and it's once a week. And I really have enjoyed that, and we're going to continue that for a long time.
Yeah.
But
Go ahead, Barrett.
I also like talking to people outside of the box.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had a question about that. What has been the coolest guest you had on non-waterfowl that just really was that just tickled your fancy?
One of my favorites, we just had her on again the other day, is Katie Burke, that's the museum curator at Ducks Unlimited, but she's in the business too. So I mean,
That's
she's
okay.
waterfowl. So, but I really enjoy Katie. She's a smart lady, and I like museums and I like history.
And boy, you can really tell she's an alpha too, based on based on that podcast there. I said, you were sitting there talking about there's some bitch sitting around right now going, God, I feel bad for her husband. I said, yeah. When I was listening to that yesterday when I was over here running my CNC machine, I had my earbuds in and I was listening to her talk. I said, boy, I bet she sounds like she runs a tight ship at home.
She is the boss. There is no doubt about that. My ship lady can run 50 miles a day. Wow. I enjoyed Roger Reeves. Now I love when Clay's in studio, and I love when we have Charles Beatty, but those are regulars, so I don't count them. Wyman Menzer, I really enjoy. We need to get Wyman on here again pretty quick. But probably Roger Reeves is a smuggler. He's an author. He was a drug smuggler, went to prison for 22 years. I really enjoyed him a lot. The podcast I knew that we did when we finished, I told Andy, I said, this is going to be huge, and it got into the millions of downloads, is the Jeremy Evans, the guy that got attacked by the grizzly bear.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that episode. That's crazy. So that got up into the millions of downloads, huh?
Yeah. When he talks about he's seeing his eyeballs are dangling, they're only holding on by the nerves, and he's seeing the floorboard, even though it's because his eyeballs are here, and he has to pick his eyeball up to see while he's driving. Just, God almighty. And talks about grabbing that female bear by the twat and squeezing it till she screams and she's gnawing on his head and stuff. I thought, but I knew when we got done talking to him that was going to be a huge one. And Jack Zimmerman's first podcast with us got me really choked up because he was talking about getting his legs blown off in Afghanistan or Iran, wherever he was at, or Iraq, and talks about them calling his mom. And Payne was in the Army at that time. And I thought as a parent, you get a call that your son's had his legs blown off and he's in surgery and they don't know if he's going to make it or not. And you're stuck in America and he's 20 hours away by a plane. I thought that and I got very emotional about that shit. It really pissed me off, just the way we do our soldiers.
Yeah.
So that's one of them that really touched me. We've had a lot. We've had so many different people on here.
That you have.
I enjoy Phil the pharmacist. I think he's very interesting. The kid that we had on the other day, that's the watch guy. What the hell's his name? Elliot? Not Elliot. What's his name? The kid from New York City. He's coming hunting with us. He's new to hunting. He sells watches, buys Rolexes and these high-end watches.
Oh, I've seen that guy.
We just had him on like a month ago.
That's right. That's right. Go ahead.
And I cannot think of his name. Anyways, so what happened was I sent him a message. I saw him talking about buying a shotgun, and he had all these followers on Instagram on his watches. So I messaged him and said, hey, blah, 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 blah. Didn't hear back from him. So like 3 or 4 days later, I come in here and Andy said, oh, we've got, and I cannot think of his name, on next week. I go, And I said, who's that? He said, oh, he's got these watches. I said, no shit. I said, I messaged him 3 days ago and I never heard back. Well, Andy had booked him. And that, he deals with Andy, and that's why I can't remember his name. But really nice kid. But I really enjoyed it. He just went to Argentina or Venezuela on a hunt too. I saw him on another podcast, a waterfowl podcast, the other day.
Yeah, I saw his post on Instagram about that, and I'm like 99% sure it's the same guy because he does not look like your typical hunter that would be traveling around the world doing these waterfowl hunts, and he's just like so excited that he found this later in life. That's the same guy, right? Yeah, it's the same.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, he does. He has a hell of a following on there, but then
I want to say it's not Elliot, but I can't. What is his name? Anyways, Christian's his name. Christian, maybe Christian Elliott. But anyways, his name's Christian. But he's coming hunting. He's going to be here at the Shin Hunt, November 30th, December 1st, and December 2nd. So he's a very interesting young man. I enjoyed him too. So we've had so many people. I have guys that'll come up to me sometimes and they'll be like, "Hey, remember me? I was on your podcast." I'll be like, help me out a little bit here, buddy. And then they'll talk about, oh yeah, then I'll remember who it is. But
well, when you got over 1,000 something episodes, I mean, you're talking like if you did a podcast a day, every single day, over 3 years worth of, I mean, or close to 3 years worth of podcasts. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, yeah.
Those don't count. Those don't count football pick'ems, and they don't count bonus episodes, because I think with bonus episodes and everything, I saw the other day, I was looking at our numbers. I think we're getting close to 1,800 total podcasts.
Okay.
Yeah,
so they're only counting that.
That's what I'd seen. Yeah.
I got you. Yeah.
They're just counting. They just count the number one, like when we release something, it's number so and so, like whatever comes out tomorrow is them. But yeah, it doesn't count football podcast. It doesn't count bonus podcast. I think we're around 1,800 podcasts we have done. And I was looking at the top list the other day on one of the platforms, and I didn't see another podcast that had more podcasts than we did. We've done more than Meat Eater. And they've been around a lot longer, excuse me. But I can't, there was one other podcast that maybe had more. I think Joe Rogan maybe has more than we do, actual episodes.
Right. Yeah, and Joe's got a lot.
What you got 4 weeks
there, Barrett?
What's been, give me one. I mean, I don't want to name. Did you have one you thought this guy's going to be special? We got this guy's going to be wonderful. And then you get in there and you're just like, this has not worked out.
Podcast wise?
Yes, sir.
Fuck yes, all the time.
We've had a couple here. I mean, we're just new at this. And I was just like, God, I hope this works.
Yeah, there's some you just got to try to pull info out of, or you just pull it out of them, and you're like, come on, guy, you got to help me out here a little bit.
I had a guy message me one time, and he's like, hey, this guy's a fishing guide. He's got great stories. He'll be so funny. I fish with him. He's just hilarious, blah, blah, blah. Okay, sounds good to me. If someone's a storyteller, I'm all for it. I don't like waterfowl guides all the time. I want someone that do something else. If you got me a truck driver and he's got good stories, dude, I want him on.
Right.
A guy I want a lady that's a waitress at a truck stop. I want people that deal with, I would love to have a Waffle House manager on with us. I want to hear about all this shit.
God, yes.
I'm fixing to have a Delta Airlines pilot on that's been flying forever, but he can't talk about he works for Delta. But all the shit that we don't know about there's questions. So I had a guy on that was this fishing guide. Boy, I was all excited. I told myself, this is going to be a really good one. This guy might be another Clay Reed type. Got a lot of good stories. We might be able to talk for 2.5 hours. I look over at the counter on our caster, and we had been 12 minutes. And I was like, oh, fuck.
This ain't gonna be good.
No, it was terrible. And it was like, have you ever seen Bigfoot? Because he's in the Ozarks. You seen Bigfoot? No. Okay.
That was it.
So you don't have you don't have any Bigfoot stories, bear stories, anything? No, a couple of my buddies think they saw Bigfoot, and then dead silence.
Oh, so, yeah, that's terrible.
The whole time.
So what do you do?
Trying to talk. So like at minute 37, I'm like, okay, man, we really appreciate you. Thank you very much. And I was like,
did you put it out or did you just cancel it?
We did it somehow. I don't remember how we did it. We've only had one podcast that I tried to get off of, and it was the guy that we had on. I think last fall, the guy that says all the people live in his house in Midland, Texas,
Oh
in the
God,
story.
that guy was nuts. I listened to that podcast, and have you heard that one,
I
Barry?
haven't.
Oh, dude, this guy shot the fuck out. I mean, he is certifiable, like out there in left field somewhere. And he, like, if I'm remembering right, it was like right behind the Home Depot or something where he lives. Yeah, and he's got like this house, and he's got this whole. You just have to listen to him. He's got this whole. He's got this whole story where people live in his walls and all this shit. Like if I'm remembering it correctly, yeah, and I was cringy. It was cringy to me, and I was
How'd
just
y'all
listening.
get him?
Well, here's what happened is he lives in Midland, Texas, and everybody in Midland, Texas knows this guy. He says that there's a child sex ring that lives under his house.
That's right. That's what it was. Yeah.
And that when they have the big oil show, see, Midland's got this big oil show, like a trade show. And it's the biggest in the world. And they have all these sex parties, he said, there, and they use this under his house to do all this shit. And they got prostitutes and underage girls. And he went through this whole list, and he was naming people and shit. And he said the Bushes are connected to this and shit. So I'm like, okay. I said, have you, let's excavate the backyard to this. Oh, I'm not doing that. That's the policeman's job. So after about 15 or 20 minutes, I'm a retired judge here in town, and this anti-cop bullshit with him went real far. I was like, listen, dude, we can just get off this shit. I appreciate you. But then we kept talking, but it just went on and on. But this dude was certifiable, but he said there's a group of people that live in people's ceilings and attics. And I'm like,
what does this guy own?
He's got to be on some kind of pain med. He's schizophrenic. He has been his wife. But anyways, what happened is he ended up getting shot. He said someone come out from under his basement and they had a trap door and they shot him. Well, I think somebody shot himself. But what happens is my police chief in Knox City is a retired Midland homicide detective. So I asked him about him. He's like, oh, shit, Jeff. So I knew then that this guy was a nut job. But all these people kept telling me, you got to get this guy. His guy's got a story and stuff. So I like stories. So I reached out to him. We had him on. He finally blocked me on Facebook after I told him he was a fucking nut job one time. I said, listen, you don't want no one to dig up your backyard. You don't want nobody to go in your attic where all these people are. And it's just, he was a nut job, but maybe one of the biggest schizos we've ever had on.
Yeah, that guy was definitely a schizo.
I can't wait till we have one of those.
Oh, I don't fuck. I don't know, Barry. Like, go ahead.
My favorite podcast that we did at the time was we had a guy sent me a picture. He was in Hugo, Oklahoma, or Broken Bow, somewhere over there, and there's a guy that had a Bigfoot recovery team on his big old placard on the side of his old 4-wheel drive pickup, and had his phone number up. Fuck, I called him up. And I told him, I said, so you're a Bigfoot recovery guy? Yeah, we do Bigfoot research, not recovery guy. I said, well, I've got a podcast in Texas. We'd only been on about 6 months to a year, probably. I said, we'd love to get you on. Oh, okay, I'll come on. I would have given anything to have video at the time, because this was just an audio podcast we did. So after about 10 minutes of listening to this guy, I knew this son bitch was full of shit. And I asked him, I said, so have you seen a Bigfoot before? I thought I saw one once. I go, thought you saw one once? Yeah, I was driving over this bridge and there was one walking on the sandbar. I said, no shit, did you turn back and look at it? No, I guess I should have done that. You're a Bigfoot research guy and you got a fucking Bigfoot walking down a sandbar in the river and you don't stop and go back? Bullshit. So then I said, so you got friends of yours that seen Bigfoot? Oh yeah, a buddy of mine. He said they love green apples. I go, what? He goes, they love green apples. I go, well, how do you know that? He goes, I got a buddy of mine that's got a green apple orchard by his house and they come there every day and eat them. Well, you went down there and filmed it? No, I hadn't thought about doing that. So you got fucking Bigfoots going to a green apple orchard and you're not filming? So then we started talking to him. So then I start fucking with him because I know he's full of shit. And I'm like, now that movie, Harry and the Hendersons, that's based on a true story, right? No. I think that was made up by Disney. I said, I thought that was real. So I asked him, I go, what? How do you communicate with these Bigfoots? He said, well, you got a call. I've got a call that I do. I go, you got a call? He said, yeah. I said, like a mouth call? He said, yeah. I said, could you do it for us? He goes, oh, would you like to hear it? Well, of course we would. And this guy, and he starts screaming and shit. God dang, I'm freaking laughing. I'm kicking Andy under the table and shit. So when we got done talking to him, I said, before you get off, could you give us the Bigfoot call one more time? And he, If there's ever a man that's having sexual relations with his cousin, it had to be this guy. I'm telling you.
This is the product of what happens when brothers and sisters fuck.
Yeah. But I laughed so hard. But that was one of the more memorable ones because I just enjoyed it because he was such a dipshit. I'll tell you a guy that we had on that touched me. We had a guy on that was in England. He lived in the United States, but he lived on England, and he was on death row. And he got exonerated about 2 months before they were going to put him to sleep because of DNA tests. And he was an interesting guy. And then we had a guy on, we did one time called Homeless with an iPhone. And there was a guy in Austin, Texas that was homeless that we had on the podcast. And he talked about being homeless on the streets, but he had an iPhone. But he said he chose to be homeless. He lived in a tent. He had an electric bicycle. He said, that's the lifestyle he wants. He said, I'd go visit my parents, live 50 miles away. I'd charge my bike, had another place I could stop and charge my bike. And I'd drive and see him and stuff. But he goes, he said methamphetamines have ruined the homelessness all across our country.
Yeah, they shit everywhere.
I can speak for that here in Augusta, Georgia. It's no different.
Yeah.
The methamphetamines over this way is about the same way. And I feel like you can go to any downtown of any half-ass major city, and it's all the same shit everywhere you go. I mean, it's all the same.
Oklahoma City blew my mind how bad it is there. We went to Delta last year and we stayed over by the airport. And I had been to that airport. There's an Embassy Suites there, and we used to stay there all the time. And there was a bar there called In Cahoots that I went to 40 years ago. And it was a nice part of town. You always felt safe. It is fucking homeless central. It looks like Los Angeles is Skid Row there now, all around the hotels.
I mean, I was shocked.
Could not believe it.
I was shocked by Austin. I went out there a few years back. I've never been to Texas, and I was taking my son out there for a kicking competition, and we're getting on the way, and I'm like, I'm going to damn Austin. And I knew it was a little liberal, but I was blown away.
When I was in high school in the mid 80s, they used to have shirts that said, keep Austin weird. Well, them motherfuckers done a good job of it.
They have nailed it. They have nailed it.
I'm telling you, nobody in Texas wants to go to Austin. The only good thing comes out of Austin is UT sports. That's it. There's nothing else in Austin, Texas. Politicians suck. Austin, Texas swallows. I can't stand it. Cannot stand that town.
Jeff, do you fear, and I know I've heard y'all talk about it a little bit on the podcast here and there and touch on it, but do you fear that with how liberal like Austin is and all these bigger cities getting more and more liberal just everywhere across the United States, that do you think there's ever a chance in your lifetime Texas will flip?
No, because Texas has gotten redder the last 4 years.
So it has gotten redder, okay.
Yes, but
that's the outskirts have gotten redder.
Yes, but Austin, those Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, El Paso, it's where all the dumb fucks live and all them blue voters. But the rest of the state has gotten redder, and we're lucky because we talked about this the other day. New York State, if you get outside of New York City, it's very red. But there's just there's 8 million people live in New York City that can't offset that vote.
Right.
Texas still has enough people outside of in the smaller areas that we can offset the vote. But what I'm scared of is fucking voter fraud. That's the thing that scares me more than anything.
Yeah,
it's them stealing an election through that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to stop counting or get away from those dead people voting. It's hard to get that stopped. And I agree with you. I think that's a real thing. And you talk about when you get outside of the major cities, going back to hunting, I've traveled all around hunting all over the place. And even like California, we went out there hunting those little Aleutian geese with Jeff Stackhouse up in Northern California several years back. And my wife wanted to see that Golden Gate Bridge. That's one thing in her life. She said, I want to go see this Golden Gate Bridge. I'm like, fuck, I don't care anything about going to fucking San Francisco. But we flew in there so she could see it. We saw it. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. Once we got out of there and started getting out in the countryside, you realize that there's still a lot of people in places like California, places like Oregon, places out there that are just absolute batshit fucking crazy with their politics, that there's still a lot of normal people there when you get outside that think just like me and you do. But the problem is you got those major cities that just got the population that control what everybody in the whole state gets. And it's just a shitty way about it. I wish you could just draw a damn little line around the city and go, all right, if y'all want to fucking be crazy as hell, move inside here, and the rest of us are going to act like normal fucking people. But it just
8.5 million people in California voted for Trump.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. I saw more redneck trucks is what I would call it, big jacked up trucks and with gun stickers on the back and stuff. Once you got kind of out of that Northern California, hell, you could have been in Georgia. I mean, you really could have been. It was pretty eye opening when you go to some of these liberal places like that. But then you see that there's still a lot of people there that don't believe in that shit. But then what happens is those people will get sick and tired of it, and then they kind of start moving away. Like the guy who I hunted with. Matter of fact, in Oregon, he moved to Wyoming to get away from that shit because he said he couldn't escape the politics. So it's just like the people that can escape, and then the state itself just gets shittier and shittier because of their politics. And it's a shame because that side of the country is some of the most beautiful country in the United States. And I agree with you. You say that New England up there is very pretty, and it is. You get away from those big cities and all, and it's real pretty up there. A lot of historical value, historical homes up that way. But as far as just natural beauty, it's hard to beat that West Coast out there. I mean, the big rocky coastlines, big beautiful forests and all that, very game rich environment out there for hunting and all that. But then you just got all them crazy fucking politics. I mean,
Yeah, when we were, me and Michelle road tripped about 3 years ago, and we went to Brookings, Oregon, and we stayed there for a couple of days. And we went to Lake Tahoe. I'd never been to Lake Tahoe, so I wanted to go to Lake Tahoe. So we went to Lake Tahoe, and we went through Sacramento Valley, and we went through I've always wanted to see the redwood forest. So we went
Right.
there, and we went down the Avenue of Giants where they got all the big redwood trees and stuff. And there's more fucking rednecks in Northern California than there is in Georgia, I think.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But when we got along the coast, well, we stayed in Petaluma, California one night, and which was 25 miles to the Golden Gate Bridge. And I told Michelle, I said, Sunday morning, it was about 7 a.m. I go, it was rainy and misty. I said, we're 25 minutes from the Golden Gate Bridge. I said, we've been all over the United States. I said, me and you have neither one seen the Golden Gate Bridge. She goes, I would really like to see it. I said, okay. We drove across the bridge. Cost $20 to drive across the bridge. That's a money-making fucking bridge, I'm telling you.
Yes, sir.
So we drove across that bridge, and we drove through Chinatown in San Francisco, and we drove San Francisco, looked at the fucked up roads and shit, the trolley cars and shit. By this time, it's probably 8:30 in the morning. And I go, do you want to get something to eat before we hit the road, get on the interstate, go back to Texas? She said, yeah. We stopped at this little diner, and they had signs all in the parking lot. Park at your own risk, don't leave any bags visible, all this other shit. So we go sitting in this little restaurant, and we're sitting, I can see Michelle's Tahoe is like 20 yards from me. And I asked that waitress, I go, is it that bad with people stealing shit around here? She goes, oh, if you've got anything valuable in there, you need to take it out. She goes, they'll get a tire tool and just bash your window out and grab your shit. Well, I had my shin bag in there, and I had a pistol in it and probably a couple $1,000 cash in it still, besides what I had in my wallet. I said, I'm going to go get my shit because I don't want to sell my laptop and my deal. And I had a gun in there. And she goes, if you want to bring your bags in here. I said, ma'am, you've never traveled with my wife. There ain't enough room in this booth for her bags. So I went and I got my shit out, and I come back in there and I sat, and I saw some guy walking through the deal, and we got our food. And I told Michelle, I said, eat up fast. We got to go. She goes, what's wrong? I said, we got to go now. She goes, what's wrong? I said, that motherfucker hits that fucking Tahoe with a tire tool or anything, and I've got a gun in this bag. I said, I'm going to go to prison the rest of my life out here. Because I said, I don't have the ability to not shoot that son of a bitch.
Yeah,
I said, I
rightfully
just
so.
don't. And I said, this is bullshit. And I said, I'll be the one to get in trouble, so let's go. So we hurried up, and I paid the bill, and was walking out. That waitress told me, she goes, sir, do me a favor. I said, what's that? She goes, do not stop in Oakland. It is very dangerous there. I thought, what the fuck? If San Francisco's this bad, how much worse can Oakland be?
Well, I
But-
tell you, hey, one quick story about San Francisco, just because you brought it up, thinking about it, and and we'll move on. But when my wife and I flew into San Francisco from Atlanta, when we stepped off of the airplane, and mind you, I did not want to fly into there. I just did not. But she really wanted to see that bridge, and it was cool and all, and seeing Alcatraz and all that. But anyway, when we step foot off the plane, you get off the plane, you're walking down the little tunnel, and then it opens up, and you're right there inside the airport. You've seen the shirts like from New York City that have the letter I, and then the heart symbol, and then NY underneath it, like I love New York. The
Yes.
first fucking person I saw, and I've got the picture on my phone to prove it, is this guy that's got rainbow colored fucking hair, and on his shirt it's got "I heart dick" in giant letters. I swear to God, I got the picture on my phone. I can upload it on this fucking deal right here. I promise. And I looked at my wife and I told her, I said, we have got to get the fuck out of here as quick as we can. As quick. That's the first thing I saw when I stepped off the airplane.
I saw a TikTok the other day of a guy at the airport in Cancun, and this Mexican kid's got this shirt on. It says, it was a gay, it said, "I love black cock." And there was some black guys standing there. They were like looking at him like, what the hell? We were in Seattle 3 years ago or 4 years ago. He's down by Pike's Market, and we come walking by, and there's this shim there, boy or girl, I don't know what the hell it was. And he was stopping people and talking to them. Well, I'm too fucking nosy to not figure out what the hell's going on. I got to go find out what's going on. So I go walking by, and there's this old Chinese couple sitting on this bench like 5 yards behind him. And he goes, "Can I get your support to sign this piece of paper, whatever the hell it was?" I go, "What's it for?" He goes, "So I can have voting rights." I go, "Why don't you have voting rights?" "Well, I want transgender rights. That's what's for, transgender rights." I go, whoa, hold on. And Michelle's like, "Come on, Jeff, let's just go." I go, "What rights do you not have that I have?" He goes, "Huh?" I go, "You're transgender, right?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "What fucking rights do you not have?" I said, "Let me tell you what right I have. I right to take my ass to work. I got a right to pay fucking taxes. I got a right to fucking die. And I can go to church, and hopefully Jesus will forgive me for my sins." I said, which of those do you not have the same rights that I have?" Well, it's not that simple. I said, "Oh, bullshit." I said, "You're just kind of come up with something." I looked at that old Chinese guy, I go, "What the fuck's wrong with these young people?" He goes, "I have no idea." But he goes, "We're so far to the left out here, it's crazy."
Damn.
But
You said that
stopping people
you
over
said that was in
transgender rights.
Washington?
Yeah, it was in Seattle,
Seattle,
which is
yeah.
Seattle is such a beautiful place. There is not a place they've screwed up, I don't think, worse in our country than Seattle. New York City's getting to be that way. I used to love to go to Manhattan. Now I might as well go to fucking Islamabad or some crap.
So, since you just said New York, let's talk New England for just a second.
Mhm.
You've done a lot of traveling up that way. Out of
Yes, sir.
all the places you've been up there, if you had to pick one place that you'd recommend somebody to go, you can only pick one, where would it be?
Woodstock, Vermont in the fall.
Woodstock, Vermont in the fall. Okay.
Yep.
I'm assuming just
Around,
the leave change and all that.
yeah, you need to be there about October the 10th to 15th, probably. It's between Stowe, Vermont, and I can't remember that little town over there, but it is. If you look at postcards and you look at puzzles and you see the beautiful foliage, you come down off of a hill in that area over there, and it's between Stowe and Woodstock. But you come over a deal, and you can see Stowe, Vermont in there, and it's got all these leaves colored, and they got this big white Lutheran church with the black steeple on it and stuff, roof on the steeple. That whole area, it's called the Gulch. I can't remember what the name of the gulch is right there, but it is the prettiest place in America. But when you go in the fall, if you've never been there before, you absolutely cannot believe how pretty it is.
Really?
But Woodstock, Vermont is a little town there, and it's definitely, would be my number one place to go to. They've got little farmers market there that's amazing, all the stuff there. And you'll stop on the side of the road and you'll be taking pictures of these old farmhouses with the beautiful leaves. And you'll look in the cemetery right there, and the cemetery is a Revolutionary War, and it'll be someone that died in the Revolutionary War that's buried there.
So the people that Vermont similar though, the big cities where all the crazy voters are, and
Well, when you go into Stowe, Vermont, which is as white as you can get, you can't hit a black person with a artillery shell anywhere around there. And they've got a sign when you come into town by a church that said "Transgender Black Lives Matter."
All
So
right. That's a fucking pretty small percentage of the population.
I did the math. There's 13 of them in the whole world.
There you go.
But yeah, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, that's the problem in the world. These are these Bernie Sanders fuckers that live there. They've never lived around anybody black in their entire life, or poor, because you're not poor if you're living up in that place. But it's a beautiful town. Stowe, Vermont is absolutely beautiful. It's a liberal mecca for skiers. We went to the top of the mountain there. But
is it there?
That's the prettiest place. But if you go into Maine, like we stayed in Brownfield, Maine, in Conway, New Hampshire, those places aren't near as liberal, and they're pretty places too. But anywhere in that northeast sector is really beautiful. Portland, Maine's a beautiful place, but it's a screwed up liberal town. I like Boston a lot for big cities.
I've been there. Yeah.
It's a liberal place, but there's a lot of history and a lot of really cool stuff in Boston. The most pretentious place I've ever been to is Newport, Rhode Island. We've stayed there a couple of times, and that's very pretentious, but it's a beautiful place too.
I had to go get a so I hunted. I haven't vacationed up there, but I've hunted sea ducks in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. And back when I went and did that, I had to go get my hunting license for Rhode Island, and we were in Newport when we went, and like trying to find a hunting license in that place. And this has been years, and it was like one of my first hunting trips I went on. It's been a long time ago. So back then you just walked into a place to go get a hunting license, So we walked in there, and they are all looking at us like with their nose stuck up in the air because we were asking where to buy a hunting license at. And they're like, hunting what? Like, they just looked at you like you were crazy going up there to buy. And I remember there being, I don't remember if it was Newport but it was one of those towns up there in Rhode Island that had a humongous gay population that we were at up there. Somewhere in Rhode Island, it's like the town was almost kind of famous for it, even back then.
The big gay place is Provincetown.
That's it.
Provincetown, Massachusetts.
Well,
it's right on the end of the. There's Providence, Rhode Island. They probably got a bunch of gay people there too. But Provincetown, Massachusetts is at the very end of the Cape. Right. And we drove there, and I wanted to see the end of the Cape. So we were up there, and we drove all the way to the Provincetown one time. And me and Michelle were in Salem, Massachusetts, was where we stayed one time. And we were eating at an outside little cafe there. And this guy and his wife were next to us, and they heard me say, yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am. They go, where are you from in the South? I said, Texas. So we started talking and asked if we'd been there, and we'd been there already a couple of times, but we'd never been to the end of the Cape. And I said, yeah, we're going to go to the Cape tomorrow. We've never been there. And I said, I'm going to go all the way to Provincetown. He goes, well, how do you do with the gays? I go, well, I guess, okay, I'm not homophobic. I don't give a shit if you're gay or not.
Yeah.
Well, so we got to Provincetown, Rhode Island, or Massachusetts. And now I understand why he asked me that, because every house has a gay flag on it. Looks like the Village people are walking down the street on every block. Ass jigglers hanging out everywhere. It was gayest place I've ever been in my entire life. But that's the gay vacationing place in the Northeast. It's famous for it. But I did not know that. But it is something else. But I like Boston. Boston's a cool place.
What exactly is an ass jiggler? I need to know.
You know what, the ass cheeks hanging out of their pants.
The assless chaps or something like that.
Yeah, but every one of them looked just like it. Had the little mustache on. I'm telling you, everywhere you turn around, you kept waiting to be filming a YMCA video. I mean,
we were talking just a minute ago on this. North Dakota has a shot of being a blue state.
North Dakota?
Mm-hmm.
Nah,
they're nervous. All those locals that we hunt with up there, and one of the guys we hunt with is pretty big in politics up there. They have brought in, I'm just going to, Kenyans, Somalians or something into Fargo. And they have hammered Fargo with this population, similar to what's happened in Minnesota.
No shit.
It is eat up with them. And
in just one town that there's no population, you can change things fast.
Especially a town the size of Fargo. I mean, when you look at how vast.
Yeah, there ain't shit North Dakota.
No, and you might go 2 miles and not see anybody. And they're doing that, and the locals up there are nervous about that happening. They've tried to, stop that of people just coming in up there. And I don't know how they get them to live up there. It's 20 below zero, and they still survive. But yeah, North Dakota.
So when you say they're bringing them in, you're talking like government's dropping them off.
Refugee.
Yeah.
Same thing they did in what they did in St. Paul. When Obama was in office.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of that's going to change now because they just signed that temporary. We lost the one Supreme Court ruling on the birthright citizenship, which is pretty stupid, but we did win the one on the TPS, temporary visa, whatever the hell that is, TFC, whatever that T something is. But anyways, they're going to ship back, I think, 150,000 Haitians and something else. And I know they said Springfield, Ohio is going to be an open closet. There won't be nobody left there because they've been taken over by the Haitians. But I think a lot of Somalians are going to go, and that might save North Dakota then.
Yeah, I saw somebody bitching on Facebook, and it was somebody that I went to school with, and I've just been friends with them on there a long time, and they were talking about how much money, how it was stupid to deport these illegals because how much money it was going to cost to do it. And I said, well, fuck, how much money is it going to cost to support them the rest of our lives? I mean, I mean, send them fucking back is what
This
I
is a
say.
touchy subject for me, building houses. I'm if you're sitting in a hotel room collecting check, fanning $100 bills, shooting TikToks, you need to go. But if I can say that you've been here for the last 10 years, I've known you working for me and show up every day, I ought to be able to help that guy become a citizen, and you can't.
I agree. The problem is they got to self-deport, then do the paperwork to get back in, and they
Yep.
got to have someone that's willing to sign up for them. We've got a local company here that's got 50 South Africans, and they go through the paperwork and they get everybody over here they need. So it can be done.
It's just
But
takes forever.
yes, I agree with you on that. And I live in West Texas, so we have a lot of illegal immigrant farmers here. We've got people in town that have been illegals for 30 years. And I'm sympathetic to them, but they've had years to get it fixed and they haven't. But we've got some families here in town that are illegal and they're good people and I hope they don't ever get deported. But it's kind of hypocritical for me to say, well, they deserve to get a stay, but then someone that's living in a hotel getting checks, like you say, they got to kick them out. Well, they're both illegal, but one of them is contributing to society and the other one isn't.
Was it on your podcast? I'm wanting to say y'all were talking about, you and Andy were going back and forth on it. I believe, I could be wrong, Jeff, but I thought that y'all were going back and forth, and somebody had made the mention of a path to citizenship for those that are here. So in other words, just like Barrett said,
Yes.
if you've got guys that have been here, they have no criminal record, they're working, they're doing just like living life like everybody else, to try to give them a path to citizenship. But you got to have some kind of proof that you're a contributing citizen, not just sucking off the government tit. And that's like my biggest problem is sucking off the government tit, because you get, I mean, however many trillions of dollars we've ran our national debt up to now, it's almost just like Monopoly, made up number now, and it's just there's no end in sight. And at some point, that's how all empires fall. I mean, if you look back through history, that's how most of them fall. So it's like there's got to be some sort of balance, I guess, is what I'm
100%.
saying there.
We won't make 300 years as a country unless we have some drastic changes. What you talked about, we've talked about this with the people doing like a blanket amnesty for people. The problem you get is it's not the Chico that's helped building a house. The problem is you go to those Somalia communities, 85 to 88% of those people are on welfare.
78% Minnesota, yeah.
Yeah. And the problem is they're out fucking us. They having 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 kids. Well, a responsible person can't afford but one. We can only afford 1 or 2 kids.
That's right. I mean, I've got one. So
their check goes up for every kid.
Yes, and we've got to get rid of all that shit. The worst thing happened to Arkansas. Well, there's a lot of worse things, but one of the worst things ever. First of all, that prick LBJ that was in on killing John F. Kennedy, that piece of shit from Texas. They had to take his name off everything. Him and that welfare shit in 1964 was the downfall of the black society. And black people get mad at me all the time. I get called every racist name in the world, but it's the truth. In 1965, if you would have done statistics on nuclear families in our country, there was more black nuclear families in 1965 percentage-wise than there was white ones. A mom, a dad, a kids in the house. Then they started incentivizing getting a welfare check, and if you had more kids you got more money. So these girls started having kids, 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 kids with no dad in this deal, and that's where we've gotten to the point we are now in the black community. The black community's got to step up with some black leaders. And that's the truth. And anybody that gets mad at that's not being realistic about that. I mean, you see these swarms of these black kids attacking these stores, and they go in there and they just, or Clearwater Beach, Florida, the other day, these mobs, and 99% of those kids are black kids that are doing that. They need some dads at home, and there's a lot of shitty white kids. I'm not taking up for white kids.
Yeah, I know that's the truth.
I'm not doing that by any means, because there's not enough dads there either. But in the black community, I want to say the number's like 70, 80% of black kids do not have a dad living at home. I mean, it's a huge number. It's completely flipped from what it was before the welfare state started.
Yeah. I got a quick question. Do you vet any of your guests that are coming to your lodge?
Nah.
It's just, come on. How many, have y'all had any brawls break out, or, people get in there? And
I don't put up with a lot of shit.
I understand.
And so I would probably try to nip that in the bud if I found out. Most of the people are really good at governing themselves.
Right.
Like if you got a guy that gets kind of out of hand, his guys in his group are pretty good about that. So we've not had that problem. I had one guy that was a real cocksucker that was here one time, and he started something with another guy that was a really good friend of mine, and I made him leave.
I mean,
I've only kicked 2 people out of the lodge in 35 years. I've had 2 guests I've made leave.
That's pretty good.
that's really,
yeah.
I was shocked because I wrote that down as one of the questions I had. I just want to know,
No,
you're mixing different walks of life. Everybody's coming together, and do they all get along, agree, or what?
Yeah, and I've had 2 guys. One of them jumped on this old man I was buddies with, and I told him to get his shit and hit the road. And the other one was my accountant's brother-in-law. And boy, my accountant was pissed off at me. And I told the guy he was disruptive as shit, just causing problems. So I said, you got to go. And he left. And so my accountant calls me like 30 minutes later, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna get my ass chewed out. And this was one of my big landowners too. I go, I guess you're pissed off at me. He said, fuck yeah, I'm pissed off at you. I said, the guy's a horse's ass. He goes, oh, I'm pissed off at you because that sumbitch is going to be staying with me for 3 days now.
Went the other way on you.
Yeah, he wasn't mad at me for kicking him out. He was mad 'cause he went and stayed with him. He said, God, if he just let him stay there 2 more days and kicked him out and told him never to come back, I'd really been happy. But shit, now I got to keep up with him. But that's really been that's 2 people that I've ever had dealings with in my life that I've actually had. I've had to calm some stuff down a few times, but not much.
Yeah, that's interesting. You got to think that's a big mix of people coming together.
That
every
is,
day.
in over 35 years. I mean, hell, I'm only 38 years old. So, I mean, to put that in perspective for me, when I was 3 years old, Jeff was doing this. I mean, that's pretty wild thinking about that. Jeff, in those, just thinking about how long that's been, in 35 years, how have you, obviously money, because we all need money, but how have you kept yourself motivated to keep being in that people industry? Because basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not an outfitter. I've never been an outfitter. I wouldn't want to be because I don't have the right personality for it. But I kind of feel like you're selling entertainment. It's kind of what you're selling. I mean, yes, you're selling a hunt, but you can't guarantee birds. You're going to have good days that are going to be great and make your life easy. And then, like you said, you're going to have the days where the guy writes a bad review over food because of bad weather that you can't control. So all the late nights, early mornings, flat tires, or heaters going out, just all the shit that could go wrong. How have you been able to stay motivated for 35 years to keep doing it?
Well, we've got a good team of people that do stuff. Tony takes his job that he does, and he takes care of that. I have my job that I do. Andy's got his. Michelle, the people that work here do. I'm not a micromanager. If you have a job to do, you should do it. I shouldn't have to follow up behind you all the time.
Right.
And that's bit me in the ass a few times. I'm not going to lie, but most of the time it hasn't. But I like people. I like to visit with people. I could be a Walmart greeter. I could just visit. Hey, how are you doing? Good to see you. I like talking to people. So I go and I talk to the table. When you were here, you probably noticed me at in the tables. I went and visited with people at night. I was a mayor for a long time in town, and I mayor work up here. Sometimes I visit with people, but I like that. I think our customer service has done a lot of good. I'm not out to screw you at all. If you have a bad hunt, it's nothing because we've never went out on a day and said, you know what, we're gonna fuck these guys. We've never done that ever.
Yeah, and go ahead. I'll say it after I'm done.
But we've had bad hunts before, but you talk to people, you try to make things right, you got to make decisions. You can't lose money over a bad hunt. I mean, it's in the hunting business, but you can be fair to people and try to work with them so they'll come back again. And we have a lot of repeat business, lots of repeat business. And I think it's because we treat people well, but I like what I do. A guy put it in perspective for me. They had a thing one time on Facebook, a bunch of guys I went to school with, and someone said, what would you do if you won the lottery? And I said, I would probably still do what I do, but I would buy me a house up northeast, and I'd buy me a house in Mexico, and I wouldn't sweat and worry about rain and weather and nothing like that. I would probably still do what I do. And one guy said, Jeff, if I won the lottery, I would do what you're doing. So that
I'm with
pretty
you.
much.
Yeah, I mean, that's all. And I can vouch for, obviously, you've got guys that have came and hunted with you a lot longer than me. I've only been down there on the one trip, but just when I came, I bought a deer hunt. I mean, that's what I did. I think I shot my deer morning 2, I think it was. So there was a whole extra morning, and Rodwell was the only one that hadn't shot one. So he was going to hunt day 3. and Jeff offered me to go goose hunting with his guys. They had room. I think it was right around Thanksgiving. They had room. I think the guides were doing like a fun hunt. He's like, hey, man, if you want to go hop in and go hunting with the guides in the morning, go for it. I mean, not a lot of people.
That's
Not a lot of people would do that. They'd be wanting to nickel and dime you at every turn, which I didn't buy a goose hunt. But he knew I liked the waterfowl hunt, and he just threw it out there. Hey, if you want to go with them tomorrow. And that, to me, that kind of stuck with me. I'm like, well, damn, that's pretty good right there to just give me that offer. And I wound up not taking you up on it only because it was literally the day before Thanksgiving, and we were about to have to make that ride back, and everybody was going to have to be back in time for Thanksgiving. But I just thought the gesture was very nice. It was something you didn't have to do.
That was Bucky Nail's hunt too. That's the guide hunt they do every year.
Yeah, I know. I hate I missed it because Nolan texted me. They actually did really good on it, but Rodwell was like, "I'm giving it till 9:00, and then we'll be gone." Or in other words, 9:00, and he was going to pull the plug on his deer hunt, is what he said. That way we could hit the road. And I kind of was prepping, just kind of seeing how long. He's like, "Dude, we might be back at noon or something." And I didn't want to be that guy that was like, "Hey, I need to get out of here because I can't stand to be on a hunt and somebody, especially a fun hunt for those guys." I mean, that was like their day. They were going fun hunting. So anyway.
I'll tell you a funny story about that group. That group those guys are out of Albany, Texas, and that's probably the best deer. Some of the best deer hunting in the world is right there. Wade Montgomery was on that hunt. Wade kills 190 to 200-inch deer fair chase every year, and that's Bucky Nail. Well, anyways, I have a funny story on Bucky and them. So Bucky and them have a famous ranch in Texas, big ranch, beautiful place, and they do deer hunts and stuff there, and they're selling $7,000-$10,000 deer hunts. And so Bucky and them one day, or some guys are there, and his cousin there is with him, and this guy comes down and he's like, "Hey, you mind if I get my guitar and play some music around here?" His old cousin says, "Fuck no, we don't do that gay shit here." God damn it. So, oh, okay. And so he didn't do it. So about 3 or 4 days later, Bucky and them are riding around. His cousin goes, "God damn, that's a good song. Turn it up." He goes, "Huh?" He goes, "That's a good song." He said, "That motherfucker tried to sing it the other day, and you told him to put his guitar up. We didn't do that gay shit here." It was Luke Combs.
Oh shit! Oh shit! He done said that to Luke Combs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a bury your head in the sand moment right there if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, we don't do that gay shit around here. Oh yes, sir.
Have you? Well, speaking of that, I'll ask you just a couple more questions, Jeff. I'll let you run. Who is the most quote unquote famous person you've had hunt with you?
Aside from yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm not famous. Well, if I'm famous, people are fucked.
Well, he's got the world famous Andy Shaver works.
Yeah.
It's with him every day. See, we don't have enough listeners here to get Andy on yet, so we're gonna coach this thing up and keep it going. And then when I get some listeners, I'll see if I can get Andy on.
That's the way it always starts. At locally known Jeff Stanfield and the world famous Andy Shaver. Let me think. I've had a lot of pro athletes here. I've had some Hall of Fame players. I've had some guys own NFL franchises.
Yeah, I know you have old Bryce Elder. So me being a Georgia boy, I'm an Atlanta Braves guy. So I know I've listened to everything you've done with Bryce on there. So that's pretty cool to see.
Bryce is a good friend too.
I could tell y'all are buddies. He wasn't just a client, but anyway, I thought that was pretty cool that he comes out and hunts with you.
The most famous athlete that's ever hunted with me is probably Fergie Jenkins, and Fergie hunts with me off and on. And Fergie's a Hall of Fame pitcher, played the majors forever. He's a Hall of Fame baseball player. There's not a lot of them running around. I really enjoyed last year. We had Arthur Rhodes hunt with us, and Arthur Rhodes played in the majors for 21 years. I like baseball players more than football players.
Why is that?
And I don't like baseball. Baseball bores the shit out of me.
I've heard you say it.
Because baseball players, other than Bobby Witt, who's a friend of mine, who's hunted with me many times, most of them have to go through the minors and play and work their way up. Very few of them get drafted and are playing in the major leagues that same year. They bust their ass, AA, single A, triple A, back down to AA, some down to rookie ball, back up to work their way up. And those guys just have a mentality. They're working guys. I've hunted some hockey players before. They're the toughest sumbitches I've ever hunted.
What hockey players?
Football players, most pro football players have had someone kiss their ass since they've been in junior high.
Agreed. It's a different breed of athlete. I mean, you got to
Yes.
think baseball players are there for the finesse. You've got to be controlled. And football players is, I'm fixing to kill you.
Well, Bear, your son plays college baseball, right?
He had offers to play baseball and college football. And he came to me and said, Dad, the people in baseball are a little bit better. I'd like to play baseball. And I said, dude, I don't care. Do whatever you want to do. I'm good. I just wanted a Division I athlete. You just go do it.
Yep. Well, my kids, my boys didn't have a chance to be Division I athletes because their mom's not athletic. So it's Michelle's fault. So
It's Michelle's fault.
So I knew the first time I saw her jogging, I was like, well, we're fucked on that deal. So I've had Chandler Phillips that plays on the golf tour is a friend of mine. He's a really good dude too. And he worked his way up too. And he's probably not like all pro golfers though. I've had some actors hunt with me. They're kind of dipshits, most of them.
I could see that. I listen to some podcast and sometimes Rogan. I have some of those actors on, and I'm a Rogan listener. I mean, he just has. You never know who the hell. I listened to him today, and he had Tommy Lee on. And
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, of all things, I listened to Tommy Lee today, and of all things, Tommy Lee talks about he's into bonsai trees. Like I'm just like, you just never know what the hell people are into. You know, you're thinking like this crazy rock and roll dude, and he's been into bonsai trees for the last 8 years and goes to competitions with his damn bonsai trees. It's pretty wild. You ought to listen to it. No, Tommy Lee listened to him on there was a pretty interesting listen today while I was sticking that boat in there. But
well, I spent a year as a roadie for Van Halen, so I traveled all over the world with them guys.
No shit.
And no, I'm a fucking lie, but it's a good story. I used to tell that story all the time. But yeah, I like Tommy Lee. I love the old rock and roll stuff and the stories they tell. I've been back and forth touch with Sammy Hagar's people 10 different times and thought we were going to get close to getting him on the podcast, and I would love to. But that's one thing about Rogan. I like all the stories. Now this is true. I did some stand up comedy for a little bit,
Right.
and I'm going to tell you what. You talk about some losers. Comedians are either the best in the world or they're total dipshits. There ain't nothing in between.
I could see that. I mean, even watching some of that Kill Tony shit that comes out now, that's all on my Facebook. I guess my algorithm picks all that stuff up, and it's like 99% of those guys look like they couldn't pour shit out of a boot if the instructions were written on the sole.
And they live in a van down by the damn river.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got asked. I went like 3 or 4 weeks in a row at this amateur night, and there's a black guy there that opened for Dave Chappelle, and he was funny. And me and him probably were the two most popular by far of any of them. And he asked me to go on the road with them. They were doing a Texas tour. They were going to go to San Antonio, Houston, and it was like a week-long deal. I go, how much does it pay? He goes, $1,000 or whatever it was. I can't remember. It's about 7, 8 years ago. It was $1,000. I go, do they pay for the rooms and stuff? I thought, fuck, I'd do it for free if they pay all my costs because it's fun. And he goes, no. You know, we usually share rooms and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, 7 nights on the road, me drive, share rooms. Fuck no. These motherfuckers in here, half them guys in there ain't been laid in 6 months. That biggest bunch of goobers I've ever been around my entire life.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. So
But it would have been fun.
It would have been
fun. I enjoyed the shit out of it because I got to talk shit on stage and say whatever I wanted to, and it was a good time. But that's the hardest thing I've ever done. And people ask me all the time, what's the hardest thing you ever did? The hardest thing you ever do is when you go up on that stage the first time at a comedy club and all you got's a microphone.
And I imagine if you tell the first joke and it just bombs and nobody says anything, you're like, oh, fuck, what do I do now? What do I do now?
I was number 17 or 18 the first time we went. They draw names and you get like 5 minutes on stage, which doesn't sound like a long time. Well, I knew what it was going to take. So I did a 5-minute kind of routine kind of in my head, and I kind of practiced kind of what I was doing and timed it. So I kind of had an idea what I was going to talk about. It was when the Dallas Cowboys had drafted a guy that was gay out of Missouri. I think his last name was Sam. Was playing football. And so that was part of my routine. It was in Dallas. I was going to make fun of him. And because I said, you know, that poor bastard, when he goes home to his boyfriend or husband or whatever it is, I said, that'd be the same as me and you working at Hooters and getting to go in the shower with them girls afterwards. Your wife's going to be like, oh, what the hell were you doing in the shower? You know,
Yeah.
Look, he's in there looking, he's got all these big dicks flipping around all over the place. He's probably excited. So I had my whole thing about what I was going to talk about.
Oh, shit.
Well, I was scared to death. And then on about number 10 or 11 and 12 and 13, I thought, fuck, I'm going to be a goddamn star compared to these dipshits. And I changed my whole fucking deal. All I did was make fun of the guys that went in front of me. I just started making fun of people in the crowd and shit, and it went over great. And
Shooting
then,
from the hip.
yeah, I did. And then the next time I went, it was an all black audience, and I had a joke about sickle cell anemia that, boy, they loved
Shit.
it. And I made fun of, there's a black lady in the crowd, and she had on a purple and white dress. She looked like a Candyland piece. And that bitch was 6 foot tall and 4 foot wide. And I started making fun of her, and these black guys behind her started laughing and making fun of her, and that bitch was ready to kill me.
I'm sure.
But I really had a good time doing that. But that's the hardest. I'm telling you, when you go up to that mic, it's hard. The very first time, it's really tough. So even the guys that were terrible at it, I got to give them some kudos to have the balls to go up on stage and try it.
Yeah, comedy's actually kind of making a comeback where you can actually be funny again and not get canceled. So it's actually starting to get fun again. Some of my favorite, and I should not have been listening to it, but most of my favorite comics are the old black comics that my dad
they're the best.
That my dad used to listen to when he was alive. I was listening to all that shit I shouldn't be listening to when I was 10, 12 years old. But to me, those guys were fucking hilarious. I mean, hilarious.
Yeah, black comedy's the best. And when I would go to and I said the N-word on stage a couple of times and I told my buddies I was going to, it's all black audience. And none of the guys in front of me said it every other word. And I go, you can't say that's the worst word. And I said the word. I said, that can't be the worst word. I've got it's been said 1,000 fucking times up here so far.
Yeah.
Well,
you probably couldn't get away with that today, but maybe so. But yeah,
I would try, but I did. And I said the worst word in the whole deal is cunt. I said, there's no way you can say that nice to someone where they take it as a compliment.
You can in New Zealand.
Yeah,
you
Jeff.
can in New Zealand.
There you go.
I'm glad you brought that up, Jeff. I just got back from New Zealand. I went down there duck hunting, right? So, and I told this story on the last podcast. So, guys, if y'all, the ones that have heard this, just bear with me for a minute. But every other word that they say, everything and everybody, no matter whether it's good, bad, they love you, they hate it, it's going, just whatever, is a fucking bloody cunt. Everything. So you kind of got to take it in context of how his mannerisms is when he says it, whether he means something good by it or whether he doesn't. So anyway, it was me and me and two other dudes, buddies of mine, and then one of them I actually think was on your podcast a long time ago. But anyway,
what's his name?
His name's Chad Yamani. He's out of Utah. He's a good friend of mine. He's actually a regional director for Ducks Unlimited now up there in Utah. I know y'all are sponsored by Ducks Unlimited, so he's actually a regional director for them. But anyway, he's a good friend of mine, and so him and I and another guy from Utah just went to New Zealand hunting. Well, they brought their two wives. One of the wives likes to hunt, so she came hunting with us one day. Okay, so just to kind of preface the story. So we're out there hunting, and bird comes in, and we were just going to let Mick shoot. Mick's the girl. We were just going to let Mick shoot, and we said, all right, if a single comes in, don't shoot. Everybody let Mick try to get her one, because we had all been hunting a few days. So single comes around, and she jumps up and shoots and fucking folds the bird. I mean, just like, all right, we're right on cue, keep on going. And I guess the guide wasn't used to women hunting very much, or so he goes, oh, it was something along the lines of, holy fuck, he goes, what a bloody fucking good shot, eh, cunt? And he looks at her and fucking, he looks at her, what a bloody good shot, eh, cunt? And he like looks at her and like gonna give her a fist bump, and she just kind of fucking smiled, kept going. And I said, hold the fuck on a minute. I put my gun down. I said, hold on. I said, you are the only son of a bitch that can get away with calling her a bloody fucking cunt in this thing right now. But anyways, he didn't mean anything bad by it. It's just
it's just their lingo.
Yeah, it's just how they talk. And then he's like, oh, you can't say that? And I was like, no, you typically don't call an American woman cunt, especially one that's paying you money. But but he didn't mean anything by it. She was a good sport with it. So,
do you follow those two Australian guys? They might be from New Zealand, because they say cunt all the time too. Michael and Marty, and they beat the shit out of each other with whips and shit. Oh, it's called
Pornhub.
No. It's not that. No, they physically beat the shit out of each other. They'll take pickleballs and they'll take golf clubs and hit them into their bare stomachs and shit.
Oh, you know what? Do they have like that little fancy house or whatever that they live in there all the time? Like throwing. Okay, that's a different set.
That's another group of guys from down there.
Okay, I've seen those guys.
These guys, one guy's got blonde, stringy, long hair. It's Marty and Michael. He looks like a skinny version of Matty Robertson, one of them does. But it's Marty and Michael, or Michael and Marty or something. You got to look them up. They're on YouTube. They're on Facebook Reels. They're on TikTok. They're fucking hilarious.
I'll have to look them up.
They'll take a cattail's whip, and they'll put a guy in the middle of a carpet remnant, like that's a 20 by 20 remnant, and there's 4 guys running around, and he's blindfolded, and he's hitting with this fucking whip as hard as he can until they get off the carpet.
Oh,
And them some bitches, they beat the shit, but they're hilarious. But they're from over there because they call each other cunt all the time. They drive on the wrong side of the road. But
dude, that fucked me up so bad when I walked out of the airport. Now, mind you, this was after like 40 hours of traveling. I had plane flights all fucked up and everything. And I walked out of the airport, and my buddies were already there, and they had pulled up there in the car to come get me. And they said, hey, we're just cross that road right there in front of you, and we're across over here in this parking lot. And I'm like, all right, so I'm so damn tired and worn out. I hang up the phone. Well, I look, the wrong fucking way for traffic coming, because I'm used to how we do in the United States. And I walked right out in front, almost got flattened by fucking like one of them passenger vans.
Yeah.
And the guy honks the horn. It's like, I'm like, oh, goddamn, what are you doing on the wrong side of the road? It didn't dawn on me that's the side of the road they drive on down there.
yeah, I did that same thing in Jamaica. About got my ass killed. Walked right out in front of a fucking car. You just looked the wrong way.
Yeah, I did that too. Well, you got anything else you want to ask him?
I'm good.
All right. Well, Jeff, I want to be respectful of your time, brother, so I'm going to let you off here. But I really appreciate you coming on here doing this. This has been fun. It was cool to actually do a podcast with you. And, I wish y'all nothing but the best this coming up hunting season. Hopefully y'all will. How are y'all on rain out there?
He just said it, but
We need it.
Need it. Okay, so he did say that.
Rains everywhere, but it's rained everywhere but here. And what's funny is we're not an inch below average normal. We're not that far behind. It's just hot and windy. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, the wind's what I just saw a minute ago where I think they're going to cancel all the fireworks in our county or a couple of counties over here.
They shit worried about it starting a fire.
Really, yeah, the whole fucking thing would burn up. That's a smart idea. But I appreciate you guys being on here. I've really enjoyed it. Love to do it again sometime.
Yeah, for sure. Well, guys, y'all have been listening to Mr. Jeff Stanfield from the Big Honker Podcast and Stanfield Hunting Outfitters out in Knox City, Texas, and we'll catch y'all next time.